Doctor Who 60th Anniversary Special number 2, Wild Blue Yonder. First we'll start with the recap, and then part 2 will be the review. We begin this episode with the Doctor and Donna in an out-of-control TARDIS. They stumble upon Isaac Newton in 1666. They ask him the year and make a joke which results in the word gravity becoming mavity for the rest of the episode, which would have been more entertaining had the rest of the episode been more entertaining as well. The Doctor and Donna take off again and land in what looks like the trash compactor on the Death Star. The TARDIS is in bad shape and needs to regenerate, so the Doctor initiates a regeneration cycle and leaves his sonic screwdriver in the TARDIS door. Donna and the Doctor exit the room where they landed and find themselves on a very large and empty spaceship. Looking way down the corridor, they can see someone or something in the distance. They decide to head toward it. While walking, Donna sexualizes Isaac Newton and comments about how hot he was. The Doctor agrees. In the middle of discussing the Doctor's sexual orientation, the Doctor and Donna hear the TARDIS taking off and run back to the room where they had landed. The TARDIS is gone. Thinking that they are permanently stuck, Donna lashes out at the Doctor, who in turn lashes out back at Donna. This is definitely not the calm behavior we got used to when David Tennant was the 10th Doctor. This Doctor seems to have a lot of fear and panic inside of him. The Doctor then remembers HADS, the TARDIS Hostile Action Displacement System. The TARDIS apparently sensed danger, so it left, and it will return after the danger has passed. Donna realizes there is something on the ship that is so dangerous that the TARDIS took off. She then realizes that whatever that danger is stands between her and getting home, so she sets out to kick its ass. It's a very long walk down the corridor, so the Doctor procures a vehicle for them, and the Doctor and Donna drive down to the person or thing they had seen in the distance, and they find a very old and slow-moving nonverbal robot. The Doctor and Donna are puzzled by the nonverbal robot, as well as the periodic announcement of a single word over the ship's speaker system, which is then followed by the ship slightly reconfiguring itself. Without the TARDIS, the Doctor and Donna are unable to understand the language spoken in the announcement, and they are unsure of what the ship is doing. Fortunately, they chose the right direction in the corridor, and they come to the ship's control room. They are definitely in space. There's a chair at the control panel indicating a life form with a bum. The Doctor finds out how to use the console. He learns that an airlock was open and closed 3 years prior. He also discovers that the ship has probes, so he sends out a probe, which then sends back video of what's going on outside. And the Doctor realizes that they're at the edge of the universe. He theorizes that the ship got all the way out there by falling through a wormhole, that they are at the edge of creation, where there is nothing. The Doctor and Donna hear a clanging noise, but are unable to locate the source of the noise. Then the loudspeaker announces another word, and the ship reconfigures itself, and the robot takes another step. The Doctor isn't sure if it's a countdown or a very slow warning. Apparently the ship isn't idle. To get it moving again, the Doctor has Donna move a bunch of panels around, and he goes to another room to readjust something else. While Donna's doing her thing, it gets cold. Then it appears that the Doctor has come back, and Donna starts talking about how she wonders how long her family will wait, standing in the alley for the TARDIS to return, and how even after her mom, husband, and child have scaled back their visits, her grandfather, Wilf, will maintain a vigil in the alley waiting for her. We then see the Doctor. He's actually still in the other room, making his adjustments, and a Donna duplicate enters the room. The Doctor talks about wondering where the TARDIS is gone, and the life cycle of the people around where the TARDIS will be sitting stationary. We go back to Donna, and the fake Doctor says his arms are too long. Then we see the Doctor and fake Donna keeps repeating that her arms are too long. Once discovering that they are actually in the company of duplicates, the real Doctor and Donna run out of their respective rooms and run to each other. The duplicates are struggling with concepts like shape, and the Doctor and Donna ask where these creatures came from. According to the creatures, they came from the nothing, and they are not things. The Doctor and Donna jump on their vehicle, the creatures chase after them, The creature's proportions keep getting bigger to the point where they actually get stuck in the corridor. The Doctor and Donna are getting away, but then the PA system goes on and says a word, and the robot step, and the ship changes, and this separates the Doctor and Donna. They are now in 2 different tunnels trying to find each other and avoid the creatures. We see 2 pairs of the Doctor and Donna in 2 different places, trying to figure out who's who. One doctor takes off his tie in order to convince Donna that he understands surface spatial stuff and that he is real. In the other room, the Donna version that's in there states that the doctor isn't actually from Gallifrey, and the doctor doesn't know where he's from. This Donna says that she gained the information as the Dr. Donna, and she saw everything that the doctor had been through in the last 15 years, including the Flux. Then there's what's supposed to be an emotional moment, but I was just sitting there in disbelief because I was shocked that they were going to double down on the destruction of the Doctor's origin. Then that Donna melts, and she's clearly just one of those creatures, and she's going on about how she's in awe of the Doctor and how he has owned the universe. Real Donna realizes that the Doctor she's with isn't the real Doctor because his tie disappears, and the fake Doctor calls Donna stupid, bends himself into a pretzel, and runs around all creepy, and Donna runs away from him. All 4 eventually meet up, and they have to figure out who's real. It's established that Donna thinks she's stupid, but she sometimes thinks she's brilliant, and how humans can believe 2 completely different things at exactly the same time. Donna and the Doctor manage to figure out who's who, and the real Doctor pulls a salt shaker out of somewhere, and that says something about vampires, demons, and ghosts can't cross a line of salt because they have to stop and count each grain. Fake Doctor says, but that's a superstition. Fake Donna says that doesn't mean it's true, and the Doctor says it's a superstition, and it is true. 2 things at once. Fake Doctor says, you're lying. Real Doctor says, then walk toward me. Fake Donna gets on her hands and knees and starts counting the grains of salt. Donna figures out these creatures are waiting for the TARDIS to come back so they can replace the Doctor and Donna and escape. The creatures apparently had drifted shapeless in the nothing, listening to our noisy universe, and now they want to go kill a bunch of people because that's what they heard coming from our universe, and it sounds like a fun game to them. Donna says we're more than that, and fake Donna says love letters don't travel very far, and neither do your lies, and she blows the salt away, and fake Donna and fake Doctor bare their teeth at the real Doctor and Donna. The ship changes again. The Doctor and Donna run and end up back on the bridge. They get separated from fake Doctor and Donna by a clear barrier like the one that separated the Doctor and Donna on the Meep's ship. The Doctor figures out that the more the Doctor and Donna think, the more the creatures learn about them, and will be able to complete the facsimiles. The Doctor says if we're slow, they can't read us. Not thinking proves difficult for the Doctor. And then we hear the clanging once again. The Doctor figures out that it's the body of the captain of the ship that keeps on clanging. The captain committed suicide by going outside without a helmet on, after setting the ship on a very slow self-destruct sequence, and the countdown is finally about to reach 0. They keep going on and on about slow, I don't know, whatever. The copies realize the robot is going to carry out the destruction, and they take off toward the robot. The Doctor manages to mess with the door to slow them down, but they eventually get away. The Doctor and Donna chase the copies. The TARDIS, being a time machine, knows the creatures get destroyed and shows back up. The Doctor jumps in the TARDIS, but he takes the wrong Donna with him. The robot presses the button, and it looks like it's lights out for real Donna as the explosion is moving toward her. But the Doctor figures it out, goes back, dumps out fake Donna, and grabs real Donna in the nick of time. In the TARDIS, the Doctor says he wishes he hadn't done that thing with the salt because he invoked a superstition at the edge of the universe where the walls are thin and all things are possible, and he's got this feeling. But then he shakes it off. The Doctor asks Donna if she can remember the last 15 years of his life. Donna says no, it's just too much. It's like looking into a furnace. Donna asks him about the last 15 years and if he's okay. The Doctor says he will be in about 1,000,000 years. They get back to the alley, and Wilf is waiting for them, but the world has gone to hell. And it's the end of the world, and we see an airplane fall out of the sky. The end. That's some really god-awful music. I mean, what is that? I mean, like that breathy stuff. I don't know. I mean, do they have the concept of playing the jug? Because it's just not as good as the jug.
By god-awful music. You're mentioning the closing credits, and it was the Doctor Who theme song. That's the music you're talking about.
Yes, they seem to be heavy breathing the Doctor Who theme song.
They were playing the tune, and then you heard... And that last week, they had the same music at the end. It was bad. It sounded like it was a mix of some sort of dance hit mixed with some sort of adult movie edit.
It's awful. I don't know what they were thinking. That came up and it was just like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, what the hell is that? Jesus.
Yeah, when I was watching this, I enjoyed a segment of it. So last week I said, if you combined all the stuff that I enjoyed, which was mostly the Donna and Doctor stuff, a little bit of the Meep stuff, you might get like 2 minutes out of 57 minutes. And I said last week, yeah, that's just not enough for me to enjoy. Well, this episode I think was 54 minutes. And there was a 20-minute segment that I actually did enjoy. And it came after they were questioning the Doctor's sexual orientation. And it went all the way until they brought up the Flux.
Yeah.
And from the Flux on, when that was brought up, the episode felt like it was written by another writer because it spiraled out of control into nonsense.
Yeah, because I think that whole salt superstition thing, they're setting that up for something later. That's, I think. I can't think of any other reason why they would bring that up like that. But again, in this episode, that made no sense because he said that that's the case for demons, vampires, and ghosts. So how does that apply to these creatures? Are they saying that these things are some sort of demon, vampire, or ghost?
I don't know what that was referring to. I mean, you made the sort of joke in your synopsis. The way David Tennant in that scene grabbed a salt shaker and used it. At first I thought maybe he was in a cafeteria. That's the room they were in. But as they panned around, it didn't look like a cafeteria or a kitchen to me. So he just kind of pulled his salt shaker, I guess, out of his backside because I don't know where else that salt shaker was. And I did not understand what he was trying to explain was having two contradictory thoughts in your mind is something that's human. And so he was stating this superstition, and then he was claiming the rules of the superstition. So the closest I could interpret is the superstition is false, but accurately describing the rules in the superstition is true. So there was something attempted here to be profound, but it eluded me what he was talking about.
It didn't make any sense.
Means deep stuff, Ricky. You wouldn't understand.
What does it mean then, Randy? Huh?
I understand it.
Oh, you do you? No, you don't.
And then why these entities that were taking on not only the physical characteristics, but the mental characteristics of the people they were copying, why they would have believed this in the first place. I mean, I think they were trying to test something like on faith, but it was not set up that way. Like, I have no idea what that was setting up, what that gotcha moment was, and then fake Doctor and Donna finally overcame whatever it was, but I don't even know what it was they were overcoming. It didn't make sense to me what the Doctor was trying to explain. And that's a pattern from the Flux on. That came up a lot where I didn't understand what they were doing.
Yeah, because that whole, we were listening to your fighting or whatever that was, that apparently drove them insane and made them want to go kill a bunch of people. I don't know. That made no sense to me either. I don't know what they were trying to do here. I guess I'll go back to the beginning and just say that I've seen people complaining about the whole casting with the Isaac Newton thing. I've worked in museums, plural, and it does bother me when they take actual historical figures and treat them like they're some sort of fictional character that they can just mold into whatever they want them to be for entertainment value. I don't know what it's like in other places, but I know understanding of history in the United States isn't very good. And so when I see things like that, it bothers me. I try to tell myself that at least they are giving people some information to think about, even if it isn't accurate. But at the same time, again, the historian in me, I really, really want that accuracy. I don't like seeing casting that way.
I guess just to make sure we're clear here, because I don't know if you mentioned that, but the casting of Isaac Newton was a person of color.
Yeah.
I don't think you mentioned that in your synopsis.
No, I didn't. He was, he certainly wasn't the English guy that I would expect to see, or at least someone who looks like they're pale-skinned, like Isaac Newton was. Because this isn't even a matter of would have been. This isn't a fictional character. This is a real person. Again, I mean, people, Doctor Who is a fictional show. They never even showed up in 1666, so none of this is real anyway. And it's like, yeah, but when you start drawing actual historical figures into these episodes, into these stories, the least you could do is try to be as accurate as possible. I guess I'm just one of those people that doesn't like it when they do stories like this, which obviously the Doctor traveling through time encounters people like that often. So people are probably like, hey, what are you doing watching Doctor Who? And it's like, yeah, but usually they're pretty informative about things. Well, maybe I'll just leave it there.
That's how the series started way back in 1963. They sold this as educational.
Yeah.
Now, the thing we need to remember here is it's becoming clear that this has nothing to do with diversity. This has nothing to do with the BBC, Bad Wolf Productions, whoever else you want to associate with this, Sony, Disney. This is not about diversity. This is about antagonizing a certain group of people so that they can get a bunch of controversy going. If you remember our Star Trek reviews, if you've been on the channel before, if not, this will be new information for you. But there's this company called Parrot Analytics. And what this company does is it's hired by these bigger studios to measure how much conversation is going on social media and other channels about the product that they're measuring. And they go with the assumption that any form of conversation is useful. So even if 80% of the conversation is ripping on something, they still consider that to be a useful metric of popularity. So I'm convinced they're doing this stuff twofold. One is to get the Parrot Analytics stuff so that they can report back how much engagement is going on. And two, I think that Russell Davies, whatever happened to the man since the noughts, he enjoys antagonizing certain groups of people. And he writes things specifically to antagonize people.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like he's doing things to actually try to educate people or change minds. This really does seem like he's doing it to antagonize, because that brings me to my next point, which also involves Isaac Newton. And the way that the conversation between Doctor and Donna sexualized and made him into a sex object. Isaac Newton. Donna talking about how hot Isaac Newton is, and the Doctor talking about how hot he is too. And this was, I guess, their way of trying to establish that this Doctor is probably gay. But what they did at the same time, imagine if they were actually doing this to, say, Marie Curie instead. How hot she was. Would that fly with these people? If they were doing this to a woman, if they were sexualizing this person like this?
I don't even understand what they were getting at. After they both agreed that Isaac Newton was hot, then the Doctor stopped and questioned and said, "Is that the type of person I am now?" And then Donna responded back, "Well, it's pretty much been under the surface for a while now." And I don't understand that, because even when the Doctor was in Jodie Whittaker's form, so to use their language, she was female presenting, that Yaz and her were a thing, or they were trying to imply they were a thing. So even when the Doctor was in female presenting, he still preferred women. And then, obviously, the romance that was going on in Davies' first run between David Tennant's Doctor and Billie Piper's Rose, he still preferred women. So I don't remember any iteration of the Doctor that even remotely implied that he had a bisexual streak to him. Even Captain Jack was trying to see if he could get any action with the Doctor, and the Doctor always turned him down. So I don't even know what this is about and this is the answer, by the way, they're getting ready to set up Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. So this is the transitionary time. I was hoping that the next iteration with Shudigatwa was going to concentrate more on going back to proper Doctor Who stories and leaving this identity politics stuff behind. But after that exchange with Donna and the Doctor and setting up this change in sexuality to be male preferring, I think this is setting up the Shudigatwa regeneration like out of nowhere. And again, going back to Parrot Analytics and going back to Russell Davies antagonizing people, that's what this was set up for, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. And I think that a lot of this has to do with the fact that apparently, from what I understand, Russell Davies has been antagonistic toward fans on Twitter, now X, whatever, for a while. Just so much of this stuff just comes across like it's very angry and hate-filled. Because again, I mean, if anybody's been a fan of this channel for a while, they'll know that I'm one of those old school feminists who actually believes that the sexes should be treated equally. For instance, if it's not okay to sexualize a woman like that, then it's not okay to sexualize a man like that either. In trying to establish the Doctor's new orientation, they did just that. They sexualized Isaac Newton in a way that would have been inappropriate if it was a woman. No, I refuse to accept that. That was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. What is wrong with them?
Well, let's not react too much because that's what Parrot Analytics wants.
Yeah.
Is for us to react that way. Now, for me, the episode began with Isaac Newton, and then they had their conversation when they were on the ship about the Doctor's sexual orientation. Mm-hmm. So, starting right after the sexual orientation question, it went for like 20 minutes. Where I actually was enjoying the episode. There were many things this episode was doing that I enjoyed. The one thing that I enjoyed that's, I think, hard to appreciate until you realize the modern audiences being talked down to is when Donna was in that one room aligning those whatevers and the fake Doctor came in, but at the time we didn't know it was the fake Doctor. And that conversation went on for like a minute. And then the scene changed over to where the real Doctor was, and the fake Donna came in, so you could tell that wasn't the real Doctor. You didn't have to hear one of the characters give a narration about what was going on or what didn't line up. It allowed the audience to, on their own, figure out that something wasn't right. And I appreciated that because that not talking down to your audience mattered to me. I appreciated when the Doctor was in the control room or the bridge or wherever it was on that ship, and he was trying to figure out where they were. You know, he sent a probe out and he was trying to piece stuff together, and I was engaged with what was going on. And this is the part I don't quite get. So I'm the old man. So my knowledge of theories of the beginning of the universe is obviously dated because it's been a while since I've been in school. So I don't know if the Big Bang is still a thing as far as dominant theory in the world right now. So if it's not, if somebody could correct me or, send me to a Wikipedia page with a phrase of what the new theory is so I can look it up. But back in my day when the Big Bang was a thing, the way the Doctor was explaining where they were, the way my mind was piecing that together was, so you've got the Big Bang and you've got everything expanding outwards. Somehow this ship was beyond where that expansion has reached since the Big Bang. So they were outside of that, which I thought was a cool idea. But given that, then I don't know how a wormhole deposited this ship to this area outside of, I would argue they were outside the universe, not really at the edge of it, because if the expansion hasn't reached there yet, that's not really the universe. So I didn't understand if the expansion didn't get there, then how could a wormhole get there? But that's going with the assumption of the Big Bang Theory. If somebody can help explain this to me so that my dated information can be updated, I'd appreciate it. But I thought the concept was a cool idea.
Yeah. It reminded me of a few other shows where I've seen a similar concept. And yeah, that is a cool idea, thinking about what is beyond the reaches of the known universe.
To me, this episode reminded me of several other episodes in a blender. So, if we are just talking about since the 2005 revival, this reminded me of the Satan Pit episode and you combine that with the Midnight episode, and then you combine that with Stephen Moffat's era of the Rebel Flesh. You put 3 of those together, and that's like 80% of the story. As we were watching this, Molly pointed out that the dialogue that Donna was giving about if she couldn't get back to her family because the TARDIS left, and that how her family would miss her and they're all, long dead or they're going to be dead. And that reminded Molly, she mentioned this about the end of the world and when Rose was opining over that same concept. So the question I have here is, does Russell Davies have anything new to write about other than identity politics?
Certainly doesn't seem like it.
Because I'm telling you, you take the episodes I mentioned and you put them in a blender, and that's like 80% of this episode. Might even be more than that. We'd have to measure to see what it would be.
Well, yeah, because also, maybe I've just seen too much at this point, but them riding that little cart kind of reminded me of The Runaway Bride when they were on those segways.
Yep.
So it just, I don't know. A lot of this just felt so derivative of stuff I've seen before. But again, maybe I'm just finally reaching that age where I've seen so much that I can just tell where so much stuff has come from.
Or viewers of our channel that remember us putting out this video a few months ago, we have a video out there questioning whether a lot of what Hollywood is doing right now, if the scripts are being written by a more advanced form of ChatGPT. And our video actually covers us, specifically Molly, going to ChatGPT and asking it to write several Star Trek-like stories. And is it really that these authors don't have anything new to say, or is the AI filling out an outline and then they hire writers to fill in the little gaps in the outline that don't quite
dialogue.
fit together? Yep.
Yeah, things like that.
We obviously don't know that. It could just be that Russell Davies has nothing new to say. But I'll also point out that 20-minute window that I was enjoying when the Flux was mentioned, which, by the way, that brought the episode completely to a halt. I don't know why he's tripling down on the Timeless Children and then the Flux, but he is. And from that point on, not only because the Flux was brought up, which means that the Timeless Children happened and the Doctor's origin was changed, and Russell Davies is reaffirming that as that's a thing. But then the story ideas just kind of got silly. Because the first 20 minutes, what I did enjoy about this, it was slow moving, trying to figure out what was going on. The conversations were mostly mature conversations after they speculated about Isaac Newton and his hotness. And I actually was creeped out a bit when their arms weren't lining up and they were too long and there was a CGI effect. That was creepy, and the music that went along with it was creepy. And that was working for me. Did it feel like it was a Davies era episode? Sort of. But as Molly was saying during the episode, the music was way off. The music had more of an electronica sound to it. Honestly, it sounded a little bit like the music that was during the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who. It wasn't that Murray Gold orchestral music. It was a Casio keyboard type music.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of what we would have gotten back maybe during Sylvester McCoy's run.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit earlier than that. It reminded me of the old school Doctor Who music.
And by the way, that worked for me. That music worked for me. Another thing to take note is the green screening on this was iffy, to put it nicely. But in that 20-minute window, that worked for me because it did have a retro feel to it, to me anyway, of going back to the Davies early era where some of that CGI, even at the time, was sketchy. Because I remember a green screen in Aliens of London where Eccleston's doctor and Rose were on the roof of her apartment building, and that green screen was really bad. And so it called back to that, or even going further back, the late 1980s and the visual effects there. So for that 20-minute window, I was actually on board with what he was doing here. And then the Flux was brought up. And this is the part that I'm concerned about, is the Doctor apparently has this grief about the Flux And we had to think about what the flux was, because honestly, we tried to just forget that crap. But apparently, and somebody correct us if we're wrong here, because we're just going by real sketchy memories. But the flux was an attempt they had in that Chibnall, was it a 4-part or a 6-part miniseries of the Doctor. Apparently, with her background, her timeless children background, was a very special entity. And there was a version of like the architect from the Matrix that was in this organization called the Division, that was some sort of Section 31 Star Trek-like secret agency that was defending the secrets of the origin of the Time Lords, and then it was deciding what part of time needed to be fixed in the universe, and I guess they would deploy agents to massage that. Anyway, I don't...
It reminded me of the organization from the Umbrella Academy, if anybody watched that.
And then the head agent, I mean, she reminded me of the architect from the Matrix as she was giving this long exposition during the Flux. But she was pointing out that the Doctor was like this viral agent in that universe, and that the only way to purge that influence from the universe was to set up this flux, which was some sort of universe-ending catastrophe. And it turned out that in the end, they did stop that, but it cost half the universe. And the universe, the plan was to destroy the universe and then to restart it again without the Doctor infecting temporal direction of the universe. As I'm remembering it, feel free to correct me. So, apparently the Doctor is in a grief state of what role he feels he played in that whole losing half the universe. And what I'm speculating is this is the repeating of an event that started the original 2005 restart. Remember, Eccleston came out of that time war, and he was a damaged individual for at least the first season. I think that this is setting up Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor to be the Eccleston-type Doctor of this event, which is the Flux. This is his time war that was the tragedy that he's going to try to recover from. That's my new guess now on what they're doing with setting up Ncuti Gatwa, which makes me wonder, going back a few minutes in this conversation, does Russell Davies have anything new other than identity politics? Or is he just going to tell those same stories he told back in the first restart? He's just going to move the deck chairs around a little bit.
I think that's exactly what we're going to get. Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to just rewrite what had happened during the Chibnall era, but I was really hoping that they could just kind of...
ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. Just not talk about it. So that maybe we could, again, have that more true to the history version of Doctor Who. Because again, apparently that's how I like my history. I don't like it messed with like that. I don't understand what happened to Russell Davies, because it seemed like in 2005, when he restarted Doctor Who, that he understood his position as a caretaker of the series. But now he seems to think it's his plaything to just do whatever he wants with it for, I guess, whatever identity politics message he wants to cram into wherever he wants to cram it. To hell with the consequences as far as what it does to the show.
There was a piece of dialogue in the episode, or actually it was more of a monologue, that I thought might be giving some insight into what Russell Davies' mindset is. When the Doctor was in that other room, when Donna was being tricked with the fake Doctor as she was aligning those panels, and he was in this room that was, I don't know, water-based or liquid-based or whatever, he was imagining the TARDIS as it ran away from the Doctor and Donna, being on a planet somewhere, what did they say, by the ocean, and then having people find it, and then there were these different stages of development he was going to imagine the TARDIS was going through. I think it was, I can't remember all the stages, but one was like worship, and then like there was an anger that happened after that, where they tried to tear that down. Then they evolved past that, and so they were trying to protect that history. Then they would build cities around the TARDIS, and then those cities would come crashing down, and then the TARDIS would be alone again by the ocean and the implication, and then the whole process would start over. And I really wonder if that's how Russell sees his role in the cyclical, as he sees it, nature of Doctor Who fandom and Doctor Who narrative. And that he really sees this as closing off the past. We're now at that, the cities are crumbling, the TARDIS is being left alone, and we're going to start and rebirth this thing into a new thing. Now, I might be reading way too much into that, but that's how I was reading that monologue that the Doctor was giving about the TARDIS.
Yeah, just from what we watched this week and last week too, I get the feeling, and obviously the behavior on Twitter, I just get the feeling that Russell Davies is a very angry and lonely person right now, and profoundly sad.
He's lashing out and just attacking people that 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, when they were probably setting up the whole series before it aired, where he was embracing the fandom, he was embracing being the caretaker. Sure, he tweaked a lot of stuff in the 2005 series, but it was lovingly done. He had several interviews where he was talking about how he didn't want to change things too much because he was still trying to maintain that continuity with what came before. And now he does not care, at all.
He seems so bitter. And that's really sad and hard to see, because I really enjoyed what he did back in 2005. The transformation that he made to that show, bringing it back, the stories, the optimism, I really appreciated what he did there. And to see him, in my opinion, tearing it down like he is now, and just how nasty he is to people who were fans of what he did originally, I have to just kind of feel sorry for him, because he seems miserable.
There was a scene in this that, to me, demonstrated where Russell Davies is emotionally. When the Doctor was with this fake Donna, and he was trying to figure out if this was real Donna or not. The Doctor was wanting to talk to somebody about what happened to him with the whole Flux stuff. And he reached out to what he thought was Donna and his friend, because he wanted to connect with somebody again. And remember, last week I mentioned that I saw the 2005 Eccleston Doctor trying to connect with human beings. So this David Tennant Doctor, in that scene, he was trying to talk to his friend about what he'd been through with the Flux. And so we were getting ready to have an emotional scene where the Doctor actually had a friend and he was going to confide in her. And then Russell Davies sucker punches you right in the stomach. It's not Donna at all. It's that fake Donna. And as it's disappearing into a puddle like the Wicked Witch, then she's laughing before she says, "You almost had the universe," or whatever. I forget what she spewed on about. But to me, that was indicative of you were getting ready to have an emotional moment of, I guess, retro friendship, where the Doctor, because Donna, the fake Donna, said something like, "We've been so busy, you haven't been able to talk to me about what's happened." And so I was getting ready to have what I thought was going to be a good emotional scene of the Doctor talking to an old friend, because he finally could talk to somebody about what he's been through, I guess during the Whittaker era stuff. And that sucker punch that happened like that, I think that was Russell teasing the older fans and then sucker punching in. That's the level of darkness that I think's inside Russell Davies right now, where he does not care who he hurts.
Yeah, it feels like this was written by somebody who actually hates Doctor Who fans. People who were fans of what he did before. I gotta shake my head and be like, this really sucks, bud. Because we were some of your biggest fans. That seems to mean nothing to you.
Yeah, he clearly does not want you and I watching this anymore. And that's another thing I don't understand. This is kind of a side topic, but so last week's video, and this happens with Star Trek videos that we make too. There are people that comment and say, "Well, I've been watching this show since blah, 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 and, you guys will move on and I'll still be watching it." And it's not like those kind of messages offend me, but I don't know what they're saying. I mean, all it's saying to me is, I've watched this series from the get-go. I accept everything they give me. I love it all. I don't put any sort of discerning critique on anything I watch. I just accept it all. And because you don't accept it all, you're an enemy, you're an unfan, you're a whatever. And I don't know what to do with people like that. I'm glad they posted something that made them feel better, but I don't know what you're communicating to me. If you're accepting everything that they will shove down your throat, my question is, can you imagine, I'm asking people that will do stuff like this, what line would be too far? I'm not saying they'll do that, but can you imagine a line that'll be too far where you're saying, I'm not going to accept this anymore from these creators? Because if the answer is no, then they can do whatever they want and you're going to keep going and buying this stuff and watching this stuff.
Oh, and worse than that, they will attack people who refuse to go along with it.
I don't get it. We got 2 comments last week on that. Whenever I get those, because we get a lot of those in our Star Trek videos, and I don't know what to do with those. I mean, I'm glad that they felt comfortable enough to comment and to say that they've been a lifelong fan, but then it makes me wonder, I don't know what you're saying. The comment area I like to exchange with people. So when somebody has a correction about what we stated in the video, or they want to give a compliment or some useful critique that we can use to make our videos better, I love exchanging with people on the comment area. But when somebody says something like that, I mean, the only thing I could think of saying is, well done. I don't know what to say. There's no conversation to be had there.
Well, oftentimes, a lot of those people didn't even watch the video because their comment makes no sense.
They're going by the title and the thumbnail.
What they think that our video is about, and so it's clear that they didn't watch it.
Because last week, I was mentioning, both of us were, how they could have taken the new Rose character and made it work for us. Because the issue that we had wasn't that new Rose was transgendered. It was that that's all she was. She was this meta-crisis space baby savior. That was her whole role. I didn't learn anything about her as a person.
Well, apparently there was nothing about her as a person until the end, because she was a result of the meta-crisis. And it wasn't until the meta-crisis was let go that Rose could finally be Rose, or whatever Rose is going to be now that those memories of other Rose are gone.
So we were trying to be constructive. We weren't trying to rip down that episode. I guess a lot of reviewers did do that. We weren't happy with the episode, but we were being constructive with what we thought they could have done differently, because it's a shame, because since we recorded that video, beep the meep, we have learned if we could just take that part of the story out, by taking it out, I mean, and just make a mini episode with that, we enjoyed a lot of the shenanigans that Beep was doing, the commentary that Beep was making. So this could have been a fun episode last week, but they didn't allow that to happen.
No, because they wanted to use the episode as a vehicle for the narrative they wanted to put forth. They wanted to use the episode as a weapon against people who they perceive as using wrong think. Again, it comes back to a lot of what they're doing. They're not trying to educate people or change minds. They're using a weapon because they want to punish people. There's malice. There is true malice behind what they're doing. Because if you truly wanted to change someone's mind, you wouldn't be trying to hit them over the head. You'd be trying to have a reasonable conversation so that you could actually exchange ideas, so you would know where they were coming from, so you would know how to explain things to them that would cause a change of heart. But that's not what they're doing. It's very obvious to me that what they're doing is that they just want to punish people who they perceive as the enemy.
The weird thing is that if you take out from this episode that happened this week, if you take out the Isaac Newton is hot, I think this episode was more appropriate to show to children. It had some scary elements. By children, I mean like 10, 12, 14 on. I think this would have been a better episode to show to children because they can handle a lot more than you think. There's nothing gory in this. There was some weird imagery when it came to stretching the CGI arms and stuff. But I think this would have worked for a 12-year-old kid a lot better than last week's Beep the Meat. But Russell Davies said this was the more adult of the episodes compared to Beep the Meep. I don't get that. I mean, other than Isaac Newton being hot, this episode I think would have worked for a 12-year-old, and I think it would have worked well. It would have been scary, but I don't think scary to the point where you were going to damage the child. This whole thing is upside down, what we're dealing with right now, because we could go into some actual critique about, like, the idea about the TARDIS. Since the TARDIS knew the ship was going to blow up, it was just going to reappear on its own. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, at face value, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. And there were other little pieces, like, I mentioned the 2 contradictory pieces of information and what that salt had to do with anything. And then David Tennant was regretting I started a new superstition on the edge of the universe, and that could have effects because reasons. I didn't get any of that at all, because after the Flux was mentioned, this episode was garbage. Even the bad CGI, the bad green screen that was going on, I was fine in the first 20 minutes of the episode, but there was at the end there was a scene where they had this close-up of Donna running, and you could tell it was a green screen behind her, and she was running on a treadmill. It was bad. Whereas the CGI before that, it looked sketchy, but in that 20-minute window I was okay with. It worked. There was nothing there that was overtly, oh my gosh, this just isn't working. So to me, it felt like the episode was written by 2 different writers.
Oh, at least.
But Russell Davies was the only person on the credits.
Yeah. My biggest problem, actually there were a couple of them, but I think my biggest problem with this episode was the logic fail, especially when it came to that superstition thing. That wasn't well explained. Again, they weren't vampires, demons, or ghosts, so how does that salt thing even apply? That made no sense to me.
Well, then later on, the fake Donna and the doctor, they grew some bad vampire teeth or something, and they were chasing Donna and the real doctor around. And the reasoning was because if you get scared, you're going to let your guard down and they'll be able to absorb your personalities more and more. I could see maybe that's scaring Donna, but I don't see how just having some bad teeth and, blah, blah, how that was going to scare the doctor. So my recommendation would be, my review would be, I enjoyed this episode a lot better than last week. And there was a 20-minute window that I actually could recommend for atmosphere. Take that as a positive review for part of the episode from me. Overall, this was not a good episode because we had the other stuff. If a 20-minute window was what I enjoyed and the episode's 54 minutes, do the math. So I can recommend a window of the episode, but I cannot recommend the episode.
Yeah, I did not like this episode. Like you said, I enjoyed that window, but if they were trying to establish that this new iteration of the Doctor is this fearful, over-emotional, damaged person...
Well, plus he looks like a hobo because he has, more than a 5 o'clock shadow going on. So, we're watching Dr. Hobo. He doesn't look like the clean-shaven David Tennant from the 10th Doctor. He looks like Dr. Hobo.
Exactly. And it's really hard to reconcile this new behavior and the hobo look with the 10th Doctor. And
he's got that button on that vest that looks like he's getting ready to rip apart. And he weighs 90 pounds. So, how tight did that have to be so tight on him? And he just stayed in that.
Yeah, so I wish if they were going to establish a new personality for the Doctor like this, that they would have done it with a different actor, because it doesn't fit with David Tennant's face. I know the story is he got this face back for some reason, blah, 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 don't care. The thing is that this isn't just about that. It's about the audience suspension of disbelief. As far as the story goes, who the Doctor is, just everything about the episode. And when you see David Tennant's face, you expect the Doctor to behave like the 10th Doctor behaved. And when he doesn't, that takes that suspension of disbelief and you're just thrown right out of it. So I think that had they used a different actor, I may not be reacting as harshly as I am, because I wouldn't be expecting this new actor to behave like the 10th Doctor.
Yeah, there were pieces of the 10th Doctor in this Doctor, but I think it's becoming abundantly clear that this is not the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
This is an echo of the 10th Doctor. I even used that term from last week. This is a echo of the 10th Doctor. This is not the 10th Doctor. Even visually, he's dressing, his outward appearance, he's not keeping his face cleanly shaven. I realize that in narrative, the TARDIS blew up, so there wasn't any time to do this. But we're talking in narrative versus clearly the actor is being told to grow his beard out, or they're putting some makeup on him to make him look.
Oh, they're putting something on him because given his age, there's no way his beard is that color anymore.
Good point. So he looks like a hobo. Like, I'm talking, I don't know if that's, hopefully that's a common phrase that people understand, but the kind of old schooly kind of guy that was basically a homeless guy that would go to the railroads and hitch rides on cargo.
Yeah, with the little parcel on a stick kind of thing over his shoulder. Yeah, like the cartoony image of a hobo that was so prevalent in the United States probably like 100 years ago.
That's what this is. I'm going to call him Dr. Hobo because that's what he's turning into. Well, that's what he is. It's not even a turning into. And then next week, we watched the trailer for the final episode, which is going to have the toy maker in it, which we're guessing is why at the end of this episode, things are just all in chaos. The trailer didn't really tell us anything except at the end, they showed Ncuti Gatwa at the end. Other than introducing Ncuti Gatwa, I have no excitement going into this third episode.
No, because in preparation, we went back and we consumed what was available of the original Toy Maker serial.
Hartnell story.
Yes, with the original Hartnell story.
The final, it was a 4-part, I think, serial, and only the 4th part had actual motion video. The rest was part of that lost footage from the BBC when they didn't know how to take care of their product well.
Yeah, so if you want to go out and prep with the original Toy Maker episode, there are some people out there who've put out animations that they've put to the audio that was available, so that stuff does exist. But my fear is that with next week's episode, we're going to get more of that fearful Doctor just because of what I saw in that Hartnell serial where the Toy Maker originated. He basically, screws with your mind. So I think that's exactly what we're going to get. We're going to get another fearful Doctor.
If this hobo Doctor is feared into regeneration and Ncuti Gatwa appears as the savior of bravery, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but if they do that, that's going to be as insulting as you could get to the old school fans. So I don't know. It's probably 50-50 whether they're going to do that.
So I'm not looking forward to next week. I think this is going to be awful. I don't even know what to say at this point. Largely because, and again, this is my own fault, I had expectations. I really thought that Russell Davies would do better than this. This is not what I have known his writing to be in the past. I'm very deeply disappointed. But again, it's my desire for something better that is causing me so much pain.
Yeah, we're bringing in the disappointment.
Yeah.
Because Russell Davies has been very upfront in his interviews what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he's following through with what he said he was going to do.
Yeah. And I guess it just goes to show that, unfortunately, Doctor Who just isn't for me anymore. And that's really sad because I really enjoyed the optimistic Doctor Who that we used to have. Anyway, anybody else have any thoughts on this episode or the direction Doctor Who is going or the direction of anything else for that matter? Go ahead and put it in the comments below and we will have a discussion about it.
Take care.